Cointraders, how we doing? Thanks for joining me on this lovely St. Patrick's Day, or whatever day it is that you are watching this, but we are going to be looking at the STX crypto, STX on that ticker. Absolutely explosive move today, so especially with a lot of the banking fails lately powering up Bitcoin. If you're not too familiar with STX, it essentially is going to be looking to do smart contracts, DeFi, NFTs, things like that on Bitcoin. So it only makes sense that we're seeing a lot of rally and especially a lot of hype for it. So that's one of the main reasons that we're seeing it kind of in the spotlight and getting so much upside pressure right now. So we're going to be talking about the current chart setup, what potential targets are, and realistically what we actually expect out of a crypto like STX, especially in the face of the broader crypto scale right now. So if you are new to the channel, huge welcome. Don't forget to hit that subscribe button and also hit the like button as well if you do enjoy this type of content so we can stay updated and make more for the future. But so just to go ahead and look at this daily chart now, especially let's go ahead and talk about it from the middle of February when we did have our first initial explosive move when we were talking about ordinals for Bitcoin and NFTs on Bitcoin. So that's pretty much what powered this essentially explosive rally where we were peaking out right over that $1 mark, but obviously couldn't maintain that close, which is where we found a big pullback to the 50-period EMA, and then now another 100 or over 100% rally from this bottom. So if we actually want to look at an extension target, well, let's go ahead and look at a normal Fibonacci retracement. So if we actually talk about growth, we're looking at the upside target of 1.618, which is always one of the first and nice targets we typically look at, which is at 136.45. So from current price points on the potential run up from there, we're looking at essentially just over 16%, 16.5 or so. So obviously when we get gains of almost 30% in one day, that's not necessarily going to be that much to actually go ahead and hit if we do think about that potential target to the upside. But obviously a lot to consider, especially when we talk about some shorter charts. So if we actually want to pull up the volume here and look at that, then we actually have pretty good volume. And the thing that's notable is that the big climax for bear volume actually saw a body that was completely engulfed by the previous bullish day. So that's actually a really good sign. So in a lot of strength, because especially this much, and this is actually the peak amount of volume that we've actually seen for STX, because we actually haven't seen volume basically since before its launch. And even the most previous bearish bar was almost right at the peak. So that was kind of the essentially last bearish bar on this pullback before we bounced off this 50-period EMA. And then the next biggest bullish bar besides that was actually on this initial run up. So the fact that we've seen the biggest bearish bar come in, yet haven't even been able to sustain and push prices down shows a complete lack of follow through. Now, obviously we would like to see a lot more increasing bullish volume, but as long as it does stay high on some of the shorter time frames, then that's going to be just fine. And especially when we do have a complete failure after such a strong attempt from the bears to completely push prices back down and actually maintain this double top just below the $1. So the fact that now we're seeing this nice daily candle completely smash the $1 level, the $1 psychological level that we got stuck up at twice before, we're going to have this now flip into a very nice supportive zone when we do actually see a backtest and a retracement. Obviously with that rise and that continuous bullish volume like we're talking about, and especially seeing a lot of this follow through, we're not necessarily expecting a test of this $1 psychological anytime soon. But it's definitely nice to know that if and when we actually do get that retracement, we're going to see this be a very nice supportive level, ideally anyway, and that is the theory, especially since it was big resistance on both attempts. So now one thing that's always interesting to do is that if we look at the Bitcoin pairing, so if we go STX to a Bitcoin, or STX, excuse me, then we can see that if we look at it, we're pretty much looking at the same chart that we already experienced. So this is the 4-day, but let's go ahead and roll over back to the 1-day. So typically what we look for when we look at Bitcoin pairings versus say the US dollar pairing is that if the chart looks almost identical on both pairings, you know that that's what pretty much means that it's in the spotlight, because the performance is acting more independently and also is acting stronger, especially on these upside moves than what we're getting out of Bitcoin, which is especially true because right now it is one of the strong performers, just because a lot of the bank crisis issues have been pushing a lot more funds into decentralized finance and cryptocurrencies. And so with Bitcoin being the biggest and strongest name with the highest market cap, we know that that is what gets the attention for a lot of big money coming in. So we talked about our upside targets in the event we see a rally continuation, but also when we talk about supports, let's actually look in depth a little bit further. So we can actually look at a very nice strong support right at about 110. So that is above the level, the $1 psychological that we talked about earlier. But obviously the $1 psychological is still going to be a completely nice line to the downside to actually hold up as support. Below that though, 95 cents is going to be extremely strong and relevant as well. So those are pretty much the two key critical levels right now. Now I think there could be a potential case for seeing a smaller support line come in at 104 if we do actually break 110. But just based on the current market trends right now, I actually would expect prices to maintain strength and actually hold on top of 110, unless we see a complete dump on the rest of the crypto space as well, in which case we actually could run down and test this 95 cent level. And it would really come down to a test of whether or not the bulls would be able to hold a daily close on top of the $1 psychological. Obviously, no predictions for that happening on the current day or even tomorrow, but nonetheless, always have to be aware of potential downsides and downside targets, because if we're not, we're actually planning to fail. But so now let's actually go ahead and pull up the volume on this 4-hour time frame, because when we talked about volume earlier, you can see that we did hit a peak bullish volume as well, but that actually wasn't even the price high when we actually broke above the previous trend. So the thing that is relevant right now is that this most recent pump and move that we're experiencing on the current daily hasn't necessarily seen as much strength as this initial move off the initial retracement, which did bounce off of the 50-period daily exponential moving average. So what this means is that when we actually see a decrease in volume, that is, especially with a higher high in price, and let's actually go ahead and pull up the RSI as well, because this highlights it too. When we talk about bearish divergence, this is exactly what we mean. So we have not only in terms of volume, but we have higher highs in price, but yet this RSI, the relative strength index, is actually seeing lower highs in this overall trend. So essentially what that means is without a lot of strength, volume, and momentum, we're going to continue to see a lower high of this RSI, which is actually a sign of weakness as prices do continue to head up, showing that a reversal is going to be coming, and that's another reason why we need to pay attention to these downside supports. So now if we flip over to the 5-minute chart, I want to talk about this pattern a little bit more because we have to look at short-term resistances as well. So right now you can see there's a pretty clear resistance line right at 117, but we do have an overall continuation pattern that also had a breakout and now a back test. So if we look at, and let's go ahead and complete this anyway. So if we look at this pennant, and this is on the 5-minute, which we typically see patterns like this more frequently than on the day, just because they're so quicker to form. So we had a continuous test of resistance, finally had this nice bullish breakout candle, rejected from the 17, and now we're seeing this retracement. So since we have now back tested the previous consolidation line as support, if we do get another continuation, we're actually looking at the next big leg of a run coming up. But obviously that does mean that we do need to see the bulls break this 17-cent line. But based on a flagpole type pattern, let's go ahead and look at a potential target. So we go from the base on the previous swing low to the point of breakout. So let's go ahead and call it where the back test is. Would put price up at effectively the 125 line. And I'm not actually sure if this aligns with a previous target from when we had STX right off the launch. So you can see that overall, you can see it fairly lines up with a lot of previous type supports and previous resistance lines. So I think 125 is going to be that very nice target for this next extension. If we bring back up the Fibonacci extension, you can see that from that price target, it's actually only looking at about a 10% rally from that target as well. So that could be a very nice upside target, which would put the bulls in line with eyeing the 1.618 extension and have it within reach. But keep in mind that as we do continue to climb, we do also increase the risk of a pretty big sell-off and retracement. So that's why it actually wouldn't be the worst thing to actually see that retracement, confirm this $1 psychological level, show it and establish that support for the bulls, and then see that next run up. That's a lot stronger of a move and a lot more sustainable of a move than just an immediate sky shot to test that level and then immediate retracement. But anyway, so that is why we do focus on some of these shorter time frames a lot more, just because it does give a little bit more of that clarity in terms of a better sight picture and also what the potential targets are just based on the overall pattern. So yeah, as you can see right now, just in the time we've been recording, very effective back test. And not only that, but clearly riding this 12-period EMA on this 5-minute chart as well. And then bulls now are testing this 117 level, hoping to get that nice bullish close and continuing that upside move. So huge congrats to the STX bulls. Definitely a fun day. Nice seeing almost 30% gains. But of course, still a lot of work to do. And we know that with big moves like this also do come big retracements and sell-offs. So nothing to be super stoked at just yet. But nonetheless, that is going to wrap up the show for today, so hope everyone enjoyed. Thanks for sticking with me to the end. If you did enjoy the video, please hit the thumbs up, like, and subscribe if you have not done so just yet. A lot of exciting times in the crypto space right now, so make sure you stay tuned. Do appreciate all the continuous love and support. As always, it does mean oh so much. Stay safe, take care, everyone, and I'll catch you back in the next video.